Hello, and welcome to another Cuppa with Kaci. Oh, that's a different sound. Oh, okay, so today, as you can probably tell, we're doing a painting video. So we'll just get straight to it, okay? In my most recent video of the live stream, I mentioned getting a couple of watercolor sketchbooks in the mail, and this video is going to be me testing them out. Basically, I've already swatched my watercolors on the first page just to see how they look on this paper versus my usual watercolor paper. I did a split primary palette like things and just, every colour as its base. Let's put these over here, I can see them. I'm liking the paper so far. I usually like paper with a bit more texture, though my preferred paper is hot press that's really smooth. It's just my more expensive watercolour paper, but I usually like paper with more texture, which this has as it's cold pressed. And they are the Winsor and Newton. I don't know if you can see that. Winsor and Newton A5 watercolor sketchbook in hardback. I also got the soft cover ring bound version. I haven't played with that one yet. I wanted to use this one. And the reason I got a sketchbook as opposed to just using my more expensive paper is because it's more expensive and I am shy about using it, I guess is the way to put it. I don't like just messing around with my watercolors on this paper because I feel like I spent so much money on it that it's wasting the paper if I'm just messing around. So I wanted to get a cheaper-ish sketchbook so I could just play around with my watercolors and not stress too much about wasting the paper. And then if I do something that I want to be on the more expensive paper, I can move it to that afterwards. So as I said, I did the swatches and I'm just going to colour this sketch that I already did that probably can't see too well, but it's our favourite heroes, Deku and Bakugo, who I'm not sure if you can see because I sketched it in pink because I want it to look pretty with the watercolour over the top, and the pink Prismacolor Colour Erase pencil tends to do that. So we'll just get straight to colouring and see how this paper goes. It was lots of fun doing this piece, mostly because I don't normally draw my hero, and I don't do fan art very much. Not because I don't like it, like I said, I quite enjoy it, but I find that I can never do the characters justice. But this time for this piece I tried to just have fun with it instead of focusing on whether or not I was doing a good depiction of the characters themselves. I really wanted to, I love My Hero. It's one of my favourite animes next to Cardcaptor Sakura and Digimon and stuff. So I had a lot of fun doing it. Deku and Bakugo are some of my favourite characters, and I wanted to paint them, and so I did, and I tried not to worry about whether or not it was any good, and I hope you guys don't mind that I didn't care whether it was any good, and I just wanted to have fun painting. I really enjoyed the sketchbook. The paper was nice, the watercolour, I'm saying a lot, sorry. The paint just flowed nice on the paper. Sometimes cold press I find just is too absorbent, like it sucks the paint in too quickly, it makes it really hard to lift and move around, but this one didn't have this trouble at all, at least not for me. Could have been the paints, could have been the fact that I was keeping everything very watery, But I had a lot of fun with it, and I'm happy with how it turns out in the end. Although I did struggle a little bit with... I go back and forth with how I draw noses quite a lot. Noses are really, really hard for me, because it's like the centre of the face. If you get it wrong, then, you know, the whole face looks wrong. And I've recently settled on this new sort of style on how I draw noses, and it wasn't really working for me for this piece, but I pushed through and did it anyway. But yeah, I was struggling a little bit trying to get the noses to look right and actually not just change the whole face of the characters, because yeah, it's amazing how much a nose can change a whole face, you know? Another thing I struggled with this piece is having to let the colour dry in between. Like, oh my gosh. I wanted to get this in one sitting, but I ended up doing it in two, because I just didn't have the time to sit and let the paint dry, and I didn't want to ruin it by rushing it. So about halfway through, I will skip forward about half a day and come back to it, so you'll see my my sleeves change and I'll have a different cup. But don't focus too much on that, or on the fact that I'm missing a thumbnail. Yeah, just focus on the painting, which again I had a lot of fun with. I'm just so happy I finally made myself draw these two. I've been wanting to paint them for a while, mostly because the green I got in this set is just like the perfect Deku green, and I just wanted to paint Deku. But I couldn't paint Deku without painting Bakugo, because Bakugo is my favourite, and well, out of those two, my actual favourite's Aizawa, but we won't go into that detail. Again, I was struggling with getting the right hair colour for Bakugo, because I didn't want it to be too pale, because I wanted it to actually show up on camera as well as, you know, in the book. So it ends up a little bit darker than his actual shade, but not so much that it's a big deal, I don't think. I'm still happy with how it came out, and I do go over with Prismacolor pencils at the end to line and add some extra final details. So yeah, you can't really tell that the hair colour is a little bit off there. I didn't want it to be too pale and just not show up, if you know what I mean. Like, the paper's not quite white, it's like an off-white, and his hair's so pale blonde that I think if I did it justice in the actual colour, then you just wouldn't see it on the paper, and he'd look like he has giant spiky bald spot. Yeah, so I'm jumping around the pieces mostly because I'm trying to paint it as it dries, so I'm not putting any wet spots next to each other, because, you know, that would be a whole thing, and I didn't want to have to deal with that. So I was taking my time and making sure I didn't try and paint next to any already wet spots, and was leaving it to dry in between, and so on. I think, I don't know, I'm going to have to Google now, but I think I messed up Bakugo's collar neck thing. I think I added too many circles. I'm going to check. Did I add too many circles? Did I add too many? Although I didn't. I did it right. Oh, cool. I was worried that because the reference picture I used to make sure I got his hair right, because his hair bugs me. I didn't realise till afterwards was actually fan art, and his costume's slightly different in the fan art. So I was just like, oh no, did I mess it up? But no, I haven't, so that's good. Yeah, so another reason why I struggle with these two is I can never get their hair to look right. It's either too shaggy on Deku or not shaggy enough, and Bakugo, well, I think everyone struggles with Bakugo's hair. How do you make it look like an explosion without it just looking like, you know, an explosion. But I got there with this piece. I mean, I didn't do Deku's whole black to green thing because stuff that noise with watercolour, am I right? I just did the green and added some brush strokes in it so it looks like hair, or attempted to. We all know I struggle with hair. I think it turned out okay, and then I come over with the Prismacolor to line it later and add some extra strands and stuff through to give it a bit more dimension, because it was looking a little flat, but not too bad. Like, did I ever mention how much I love these paintbrushes? They're my silver black velvet or something. I'll link them below. They're super expensive, but I love them. I think, who was it that used them? I know there's an artist on YouTube that I follow whose name I have forgotten, and she uses them and swears by them, and I will link her below because she's incredible and you should check her out. But I ordered them after she recommended them. That they're really expensive, and you know, if you can't afford to spend $60 to $80 on 3 paintbrushes, then don't. But they are very nice paintbrushes, and they just hold so much water, and you can get such thin lines or such thick lines, and it's nice to actually use decent paintbrushes instead of the cheap ones that I just normally get from the craft store. It's not really focused on painting, just has some painting stuff, so the paintbrushes aren't the best, and it's nice to actually use paintbrushes that are quality and not just what I could afford at the time. Very happy with myself for spending the money. Even though it was a lot of money and I was cringing afterwards. Oh. No, I think she's okay. Yeah, so back to the sketchbook. I like the paper. I did struggle a little, like it warps a little bit, which is awkward in a book because you can't tape it down. But it wasn't too bad because I could just, hold it with my other hand, and because it's in a sketchbook, it's not going to go anywhere, so it wasn't too difficult. But there was a little bit of warpage, not too much that it was an issue. The texture was lovely. The only thing I will say about the texture is if you are the kind of person who comes over the top of your paper, your painting with pencil afterwards, if you're using Prismacolors, you can't get a solid line because the lead's so soft. The only part of the paper that you'll actually get colour or pigment onto is the raised bits, so I don't know if you'll be able to see on the camera. We'll see when we get there. But the pencil is, it's kind of charming, a nice texture to it, but it's got the texture of the paper, and that's the only bit that the pencil would actually touch, unless you press really hard and dig grooves into the paper with your pencil so that you can get a solid line. And here we go, skipping forward half a day to do the lines because I did not want to attempt to use Prismacolor pencils on soggy paper because we all know that would go bad. I struggled with the decision on this piece for pretty much the whole piece, whether I was going to line it with watercolor or if I was going to come back over with pencil, and pencil won out mostly because that's the style I've sort of been doing lately, so I was just like, I'm comfortable with that, I'm just going to do that. But the next one I might just do some watercolor line art because I haven't done that in a long time, so it might be nice just to play around with that style, which I haven't done in quite a while. I also wasn't 100% sure, so the smallest one of these silver black velvet, I think that's what they're called, brushes, is not as small as I would normally use for my line art, and I didn't want to have to dig out my line art brush, which is another one of the deciding factors. We all know I'm lazy, so I just went with the Prismacolors because my fiance recently moved them to my office and they were set right there, so I was like, well, I can just pick a couple colours and line like that. Though this one I did struggle a little bit. The wood kept tearing up when I was sharpening it, so I had like a big chunk sticking out the side, which was very frustrating, but it was the colour I wanted to use and I didn't have a double, so I just, dealt with it and didn't sharpen it too much. Like, I tried to deal with it being blunter than I would normally use, just because the wood was tearing up too much and I didn't want it cracking in half or anything. Yeah, this is where you see me sort of struggle with the noses. I didn't want it to change the whole face, but I didn't want to just do an anime triangle nose. So yeah, I attempted to make it look like the style I've been using without messing up the face too much. I think I did okay. You'd be the judge, but I am happy with how they came out in the end, at least. Just because, noses are like one of my pet hates. I love how they look when they're drawn well, but I just hate drawing them because they never turn out how I want them to look. So yeah, I suppose it would be easier just to go with doing the simple anime triangle nose, but I don't know, it's not fun doing it the lazy way, in my opinion. Okay, on to Bakugo. So I used a slightly different colour for each of them for the lines, because Deku's obviously more cool tones and Bakugo's more warm tones. And I could have used the same colour, because I used like a warm purple for Deku, but I don't know, I just wanted to use this sort of reddish brown terracotta colour. Sorry. Oh, yawn. I hope I made you yawn too, because that's the fun thing about yawns. Where was I? Yes, so what I did with this was I outlined most of it, then I came back through and did some sort of soft shading in areas, and that's where it sort of just picked up the texture of the paper instead of like giving it a smooth shade, which I don't know if I like or not. Like, I don't not like it. It doesn't bug me too much, but also it's not what I'm used to when I do this sort of shading over the top of my drawings. So I was kind of like, is it the look I'm going for? Or is it not? I don't know. And I struggled so much with Bakugo's nose, but I just ended up leaving it like that. I was like, if I work it too much, it's going to look really bad. So I'm just simple and sweet and hope it looks okay. And yeah, I'm happy with it. It looks good. It doesn't take away too much from the fact that it's Bakugo. So, yay me! Yay Bakugo! And yeah, that's pretty much the whole piece. If there's anything you'd like to see me do, if you want to see more fan art, if you want to see more original characters, just message me below so I can give you guys the content that you want and not struggle sometimes for video ideas. Give me your ideas. Tell me what you want to see and I'll do it. But yeah, going through with highlights, ended up using this old as Posca pen that I just had lying around, and it's super thick, so I had to try and not just overkill the picture with the Posca pen. But yes, let me know what you want to see and we'll work it into the playlists, and that's the piece. Just happy little Bakugo and a cocky little Deku. Wait, no, strike that, reverse it. Happy Deku Koki Bakugo. Oh my gosh. And there you go. So I'll see you all next week. Have an awesome week. Like, subscribe, comment below, and I'll see you on next Tuesday. Bye!